Being said, my name is Callie. I run all of our marketing here at Reviewer. And my role in this webinar is just to kind of give you guys a little bit of insight into kind of what we're seeing in the market just from research. And then I have Hallie here from my team, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Yeah, I'm Hallie. I'm a part of the customer success team here at Reviewer. So I work with all of our clients from the time they sign with Reviewer, they're onboarded. We get their event kind of set up and running, intaking those submissions. And then I help them with that evaluation process and then kind of closing out, gathering all their reports and getting ready to start next year's event. So I kind of have that insider perspective of our clients of understanding kind of their past systems, if they were using a different platform, if they were using Google Forms, if they were using kind of just emails and PDFs or printed out paper for their applications. I kind of understand what they're coming from, their frustrations, what they're looking for, and then I can use that information to kind of better help them run a program that just kind of fits them better and works better towards their goals. So I kind of just have that insider perspective of understanding what clients are wanting, what they're needing, and kind of the results they're getting from using Reviewer.
Awesome. So before we go ahead and fully get started here, I did just want to note that the chat is open. So if you have any questions as we're going along, feel free to drop them in the chat. But with that being said, we are going to get right into it. So I first kind of wanted to start out with the problem or the reality of what a lot of programs are struggling with currently. So some of the kind of common problems that we do see with programs is overall just manual processes, kind of like Hallie mentioned before, hacking different forms together, things like Google Forms, Jot Forms. You might be using spreadsheets, different files, Dropboxes, emailing things back and forth as far all the way down the line as a full manual process with paper, mail in, things like that. So we just see a lot of issues with just not running programs as efficiently as they can be run and taking a lot of your time as admin and then also lots of time for your judges. So what a well-built kind of program looks like is just the full scholarship life cycle being managed within one connected system. So that is everything in one place. That is your judging, your scorecards, your applications, everything within one tool. So you're not using all of those different pieces to kind of pull something together. And the benefit of that is overall program integrity, especially when it comes to data security for your applicants and just overall management of your applicants' data. And then it also can be beneficial for your judges when they have a very smooth, simple, easy process. And we can help eliminate some of the bias that comes along with judging when we are in one fully integrated system. So, kind of what we're going to go over today, we're going to break it up into three different sections. The first section being the real cost of these disconnected tools and the toll it may be taking on your program. Then the second piece we're going to move into is the life cycle gap most programs don't see. So these are kind of the pieces that may be missing that you may not see or may not know are out there and available. And then we are going to finish off with a framework that we have seen successful and kind of some tips and tricks and things that might just overall help your program run smoother.
Yeah, so with that, let's kind of get started on pillar one, which is the real cost of disconnected tools. So what kind of your duct tape thrown together programs are actually costing your organization? So first thing that I kind of want to talk about is the time drain. So as Kelly mentioned earlier, you running this scholarship program is probably not your main job. And so when you have to spend 60% of your typical hours that you do in your job and allocate that all towards that scholarship process, that is very time consuming. That's not efficient. And that's not fair to your core job. And that's really frustrating. Second of all is the applicant drop off. So, and this kind of also ties in with that time drain. So when you're spending that much time trying to throw together a scholarship at the end of the day is not a great experience. All that time is kind of went to waste because your applicants are going to be frustrated with that experience and they are not going to finish because of the confusing forms. There's broken. They don't have the ability to start and finish in different dates with their progress being saved. Kind of all of those things just run together and that leads your numbers to decrease because your applicants aren't going to continue to fill out or even start an application that they have heard or seen is not intuitive. Third is volunteer fatigue. So as many of you are probably volunteers running this event, or this is something kind of a sidebar gig you're doing for your job, most of your reviewers, evaluators, whoever is scoring your applications, they're more than likely also volunteers. So it's super important that while you're keeping yourself happy and sane with this process, you keep those applicants process good and clean because at the end of the day, that's the most important, but also your volunteers who are contributing their time into your event and making it kind of happen because without those volunteers that evaluate and make the reviews, you don't have your winners of your scholarships. And so really just making sure that they have a good experience. They spread that word of mouth. They said, you know, that was a great experience. I would love to volunteer again. I want other people to come and volunteer and spend their time doing this as well. So really important that we keep them happy and keep them coming back. The next thing is no visibility. So as you kind of have those submissions coming in, if you don't have everything in one centralized location, how are you really keeping track of how many submissions you have? What's the status of all your submissions? How many people have started but not finished? And so that lack of visibility really is a larger issue than you might think, because if you are having people submit forms in 3 different places and email you, how do you know that someone has a complete submission? And then how do you know that the 3 emails you received today, 2 of them are letter of recommendations and 1 of them is an actual form submission? So how are you supposed to kind of keep track of how many people are applying? Next thing is repeated rework. So every time you run your scholarship program right now, you are having to start from scratch. You don't have anything to kind of go off of other than last year's Google Doc, last year's Google form, if you took screenshots, right? So kind of understanding that work that you're putting in and having to do it year after year for just kind of mediocre results, that's not a great process for you or for those applicants or judges. Program integrity. So having your applicants' kind of private information living in your spreadsheets, email attachments, PDFs that are kind of shared within multiple different people, that is not secure or compliant. And so kind of making sure that we are taking this application process serious enough to kind of protect our applicants back. And then impact reporting. So you are spending all this time, effort, and money into running these scholarship programs. And at the end of the day, how do you know how much of an impact you really make? How do you know how much success you've had with these scholarships? Kind of how are you really gauging what difference you're making? What is giving you that motivation to continue to run those scholarships? Perfect. And then the last thing for pillar 1 is the hidden cost of disconnected tools. So we kind of talked about all these disconnected tools, all the issues that are in most people coming from different platforms or different systems. And so what is that really costing you? Well, it might not be a big upfront cost to run your scholarship program. The value of your time that you're spending towards it, your volunteers' time, your applicants' time. So if you're spending 15 to 20 additional hours a week on those manual tasks, and 40% of your applicants are not finishing, not submitting, and you have a 3 times longer review cycle than what really needs to be, and then you also have 0 real-time reporting, those are not great numbers. When you go to your head person and are telling them this is how this year's scholarship event went and they see these numbers, that's not something that kind of sparks their attention and says, yep, this is great, let's continue to run it. So kind of having visibility on the actual hidden cost of these tools.
All right, so now we are going to move on to our second piece here, which is the life cycle gap that most programs don't always see. First, we kind of want to look at the life cycle in its entirety. So, this starts all the way from application intake and moves to impact reporting. Firstly, focusing on that application intake, that is where your scholars are coming in, they're applying, they're filling everything out that they need to. And then once that is completed, you move into your reviewing and scoring. And then you, based on that scoring, you have your selection and awards. And then typically what we see is programs kind of stop there after those three. But we want to look at the scholarship lifecycle as a whole and kind of go beyond that. So the next piece to that is scholar communication. After those awards are given out, how are you communicating with your scholars or your recipients? Are you emailing them? How are things going back and forth? Do you need any other files from them, transcripts, maybe proof of credit hours, things like that? So running that smooth kind of communication piece back and forth. And then you would move into your post-award tracking. So this kind of is just receiving information from your scholars and just your overall impact reporting in general. So this is things like how many more applicants are you gaining from year to year? And then going a step further than that and looking at how these scholarships actually impacted the students who received them. So this is communicating with those students. Maybe you have a survey for them, or maybe they write you something or a video kind of explaining their impact to kind of go beyond just that award piece. Because at the end of the day, your impact reporting can be super important for your organization. Typically, when we are running these programs, we see that normally your organization, when the program is all said and done, they want to see how this scholarship is actually impacting the community or impacting the students that are receiving these funds. So, where we're kind of seeing programs fall apart within that life cycle is no operation command center. So this is not being able to track where you're at in your programs. At any given time, not being able to see how many submissions have completed, how many people have started an application but not finished, how many have been accepted, how many have already moved on to judges, how many have scores, not being able to see that all at once and know where you're at in your process. The second one within that life cycle is the applicant experience is just a form. So kind of the gap we're seeing there is applicants fill out a form and kind of that's it. Um, you might have them send in an upload or two, but that kind of doesn't always give you the full picture of them. We want them to be able to upload things like videos. We want them to be able to upload their transcripts or letters of recommendation or things like that to kind of give you a bigger idea of who that applicant really is. The third one is judging that doesn't hold up. So what we see a lot in a typical gap within spreadsheets or kind of scoring that way is a lot of manual work on your judge's end. So they may have to download the applications. They also have their scorecards. They're trying to go back and forth judging those. They're entering them into spreadsheets. And it can just cause kind of a lot of issues amongst your judges and your judging process in general. And so, kind of what we see sometimes is no rubrics or no rubrics that are the same across the board for all of your judges. Not being able to redact data. So that is if you want pieces of your scholars or applicants' data covered from your judges. So if it is pieces or sensitive information about students that you don't want judges to see, being able to hide that and being able to keep that confidential if need be. And then no normalization. So essentially, what we see happening is if I am judging an application and I'm a really strict judge, I might score people really hard. And Hallie might be a really easy judge, and she scores people really easy. If you are an applicant, obviously you are going to want to get judged by Hallie and not by me. So not having a way to normalize that score can cause a big discrepancy within that. And just in a little bit, we can kind of show you kind of some solutions for that. But moving right along, communication that falls through the cracks. So this may be sending emails to your applicants back and forth, things like that. They might be fully turning in their application over email. The issue we've seen with this is obviously things get lost in spam folders. Here at Reviewer, we've seen um, just programs have issues with taking things through email, and then it ends up getting missed. Sometimes the students will never even be evaluated because their application went to spam, and nobody ever even saw it. And then the next one being post-award chaos. So that's not having everything planned out before you actually give out those awards, knowing what you need to collect and when you want to collect it. Also, having a smooth process to be able to receive different banking information, things like that, with your back and forth with your recipients. And then the last one is impact you can't prove. So typically what we see with scholarships is just saying we gave out these scholarships and they helped students. Normally isn't enough always for your organization. So being able to have that reporting and show how your program is improving and how it's affecting your scholars can be super important.
Yeah. Following up with our last pillar, we are going to talk about a practical framework for what you need. So kind of putting together pillar 1 and 2, and then showing you what you need to kind of combat those issues, what you can do with Reviewer that will give everyone, you as an admin, your applicants, and your reviewers a better experience overall. So first couple things, application and intake. So this is going to be kind of more towards that applicant base, but you'll see how that will actually affect you as an admin. So giving the applicants an experience of creating a profile, they then have the ability to log in and start their application. If they don't have enough time, they can click save and log out and they can come back later. And then with that, they're able to come back in, submit, and then they also, because of that account creation, if they don't come back within your X amount of time that you set for that reminder email, they're gonna get that incomplete submission reminder email with a link to log back in. So a really great automatic way to kind of keep your submitters in the loop, keep them reminded, and give them that kind of friendly push that I know a lot of scholarship applicants need to log back in and finish those applications. Second thing is going to be that we have a redirect page. So as soon as they click submit, they know that they have submitted that application. And that's a huge thing that we see submitters and admin coming from different processes see a frustration with, is that their submitters click submit, they turn things in, or they send out their email and it's kind of just sitting and wondering, did they receive that? Did my application go through? And then just as kind of a double way to double confirm that their application has been received, we have a submission confirmation reminder email. So kind of that double way of letting them know we have your submission, it is complete, you're good to go. Operational command center. So once you start accepting those submissions, you kind of have an admin dashboard is what we call it, where you can see how many submissions you have, the status of each submission. So whether they have just created an account, they have started but saved and logged out, or they've submitted, any of those kind of statuses that they can be in. You also have a really quick visibility of how many days you have left of your application. A lot of scholarship programs kind of have milestones throughout their event that they use kind of internally to remind themselves, okay, let's check on this, this, and this. You have that view in that admin command center. So kind of giving you that opportunity to have a broad view of your scholarship program without having to dig too deep, and you can get those quick answers that you need. Judging and scoring. So in Reviewer, in order for a submission to be reviewed, there has to be a scorecard. Every judge will be judging their evaluations that they're assigned to, the submissions that they're assigned to, with the same scorecard. So if you separate and you're running 5 scholarships within one event, more than likely you'll have 5 different scorecards, and those submissions will be evaluated as they kind of line up with those scorecards. So making sure that it's not just kind of a hearsay of, oh, I rate this scholarship a 10 out of 10. Well, Callie's going to rate it a 15 out of 25. That causes a lot of discrepancy. And then also with that, for your judging and scoring process, it's very easy for your judges. They get sent a password set email. Your judges also create an account so that they can come back in as they please, come and go as they please, and then fill out those evaluations. So a really great experience for the judges as well, which is super important. And then communication. So kind of talked about this with the submission process, but having the ability to keep your applicants updated automatically. So that's not something you manually have to do where you have to go and email each individual applicant and say, hey, we received this, or hey, you're missing part of your application. Part of that application process is that anything that is marked as required within those submission forms, they cannot move forward or submit without filling out or inserting any of the required fields. So that makes it easier on your part. But then also with communication, if you do have a bulk email that you want to send out to specific submissions that maybe aren't recognizable by status or groups, you have that ability to build out an email template, select those recipients, and send it through reviewer. So it's not your personal email. You have that template. You don't have to type it out 8 different times. It's all there for you. Post-award management. So once you kind of get all your submissions, your scholarships have been given out to everyone, you're there. Now you have that ability to kind of go back in and you can make those applicants come back in and do an impact report. You know, you'll give them that first semester of scholarship money, and then until they fill out that impact report, they come back in and tell how this has affected them. They don't get that second half of your scholarship, or however you want to run that, which is super important, just so you have something to kind of communicate and present to your organization, but also to the public. It's great to tell your community, you know, we gave out $50,000 in scholarships. That's great and all, but what they'd really like to see is how that $50,000 affected each individual applicant. And then last thing is reporting and impact. So kind of just talked about the impact, but the reporting side of things. So being able to download all of your submissions so that you can keep them in a secure place. Downloading to see how many submissions you have with each scholarship that you ran or each kind of category, region, however you want to support that and kind of report in those different ways, you have that ability to do. And then with that, what I kind of want to do is I want to walk you guys through that applicant to admin experience. So I kind of want to show you every kind of little aspect of what your event and reviewer can look like. Okay, so something that we have at Reviewer is a microsite. So we talked about how your applicants are going to log in and they're going to create an account. And so when they do that, when you go live with your event, you will share out a microsite link. So for example, these people have shared out their microsite link through their website. That's super common. You also can do it through social media, internal emails, anything kind of like that. That's how you can share that out. That will take them to their microsite while they were creating an account. So we are creating that profile so that you have that information, all that contact information, names, things like that, all in one place. And then I'm going to move forward. So this is going to be kind of just like your applicant information. And I'm going to go forward a little bit so we can get to an actual application. Perfect. And so something else that we can do with a lot of scholarships that we do is we have an eligibility. So typically, if we do have scholarships that are maybe it's one scholarship program, or you're offering 8 different scholarships, but it's all in one application, which makes it a lot easier for you all as an admin to just kind of keep track of things. But what we do is we do an eligibility. So there's going to be basic requirements, whether that be age, where you're from, things like that. For all scholarships. So we'll set up a little eligibility like this. And then from there, we can also do scholarship matching. So if your first page is eligibility, you go forward and they either are able to move forward to the scholarship matching page, or they're kicked out of the form. They are not eligible due to some answers that they provided in that first page, and they're no longer able to move forward. So that's how you know that you're not wasting your time with applicants that are not eligible for any scholarship. From there, we set up a series of questions that kind of matches them to the scholarships that they are eligible to apply for. So if they are able to apply to more than one scholarship, then they kind of have that ability to match based on their answers. So kind of just a little preview of what their application process looks like. Super intuitive, easy ways to kind of fill out those questions. File uploads are secure in Reviewer. Only you as admin will have access to those. You can either hide or keep them visible to reviewers. Just kind of that is what the applicant experience looks like. Something that's also commonly used for scholarship programs is a letter of references. And so a lot of people kind of struggle with, you don't want the applicant to have access to that reference before it's submitted. And so what we do is we allow the applicants to insert their references, first name, last name, email, and through Reviewer, that invite gets sent to that reference. They jump into Reviewer, upload either their reference form or rating or however you run that process. They click submit and they're done. So again, everything is all in one place, and that makes it really easy for that recommender, and also kind of helps you out as an admin with peace of mind knowing that that came directly from the recommender. Perfect. Next thing I want to show you is kind of the admin side of things. Before I get into that, I do see we have a chat asking what the turnaround time to get the microsite up and running and taking applications. There isn't a direct answer for that just because it kind of depends. The first will be probably the complexity of your program. So right now we're around 6 business days, I think, out before you can get that kickoff call. But then after that kickoff call, you as admin have the ability to build out your form. So if you're going based on something that has already been, you've been using, if you have those questions, it really is just kind of dependent on how long it takes you to get that form in Reviewer and then kind of set configurations as needed and get it tested. So from the time kickoff call to being fully built, I'd say at least 2 weeks, and that really is pushing it. We typically like to do at least a month before going live, but we're always willing to help and get things going quicker as needed because we want to make sure that you as an admin and your scholarship applicants have that best experience. Kind of going off of that, so this is going to be kind of more geared towards the admin. So this is your admin dashboard. So when you log into Reviewer and you go to your event, this is where you'll be taken to. So how many days left? What are the statuses of all your submissions? How many total entries do you have? Dates and deadlines, specific kind of milestones through your event. A supplemental form. So supplemental forms would be that reference event that you have. So what is the status of those supplemental forms that have been sent out? And then down here at the bottom, we have notes from reviewers, submissions about the event. So this would be kind of further on in your experience when you have your reviewers evaluating and they leave notes, you have visibility of that there as well. Next thing I want to take you to is this manage submissions page. And so what this page is this is kind of your more in-depth view of your submissions. So as you can see, you have all these filters that you can search by if you're looking for someone specific. And then also this kind of a spreadsheet looking manage submissions page is really helpful because you can kind of choose what comes up here. If you aren't using groups or you're not using the create a date, things like that, you can kind of filter down and make it smaller depending on what is important for you to show. But then you also have your submission name, your submitter name. If we set up auto grouping, that's really helpful here because you can see what group they are in. Organization, so what submission company, organization, or honestly, whatever you want to pull from here. So just kind of a more in-depth view of getting kind of a grasp of your submissions here. You also have the ability to view, edit, and kind of take a peek at these submissions. So if someone's saying that they need to edit something or change, you can take a peek, see that is, and then kind of give them instructions from there. You also are able to add questions and comments on that section, custom labels. You can assign them to a group or division, anything like that. Kind of a lot of freedom here. Attachments, if you have to add attachments manually for the submitter, because maybe it's something that you do on your end at the end of the process, or if you just want to quick see what attachments were uploaded, you can go to that attachments tab, click into them, get a good view, and then supplemental forms is going to be that reference tab. You can look at those references and kind of see what that looks like. And then kind of for that review workflow, I won't go too in depth in this, but you can set up your kind of review workflow however you'd like. We really encourage setting up auto grouping, so that's one less step for you. And then you make your assignments. You can either do auto assign, where you pick a minimum and maximum number of how many times each submission should be reviewed, which is this. You can also do assign all, or you can manually assign and kind of match your reviewers with your submissions. Um, and then the last thing I kind of want to show you is the actual reviewer experience. So they will get an email from a reviewer once you invite them, they'll log in, and then this is their evaluator portal. So at the bottom, they'll see all of the submissions that they are assigned to evaluate. If you'd like to redact the names from anything, we can make that. That's what this example is. And then they'll click in and they'll view submissions. And then you can see over on the left, you have that entire submission form. You can look at the uploads, anything like that. And then on the right, you have the actual evaluation scorecard where they will fill it out. The points will total and you can kind of go from there. So that was kind of a quick little overview of the applicant, the admin, and then the reviewer process. So you can see how everything is kind of streamlined. It's all in one place, which makes it a really great experience for you guys as admin.
All right. So now that we've kind of walked through the life cycle within Reviewer, I just wanted to show you really quickly just some kind of questions you might have before you fully commit to your software or in general your processes, whatever you may be using. So this will be questions that you can kind of have running in your mind when you're evaluating your current processes and when you're looking for a new process. So overall, just questions about the platform. Is it able to fully cover the life cycle of your scholarship? Is it missing pieces? That's one of the bigger questions that can be super important. Can I manage multiple scholarships without multiple tools? Depending on how many scholarships you run, or if you run any other type of programs, that can be super important. Another one is how does the review process work for my judges? As we know, judges are super important, so making an easy process for them is a great question to ask. And then what is happening to applicant sensitive data? When using forms like Google Forms, Jot Forms, things like that, you have to ask yourself, where is that data going? Especially when you are collecting data on all of these students, knowing that their data is secure within a platform is super important. Next one being, what reporting and analytics are available? Kind of what do you have access to on the reporting front within your either platform or within your however you're managing your scholarships? And then does the platform support year-to-year program management? So do you have to start from scratch every year? Can you kind of bring it over, things like that? That can save you a lot of time in the long run. The next one is, how does the platform handle ongoing awardee relationship management after the award is made? Do you have the ability to set reminder emails that go out to your applicants or awardees? Or are you able to send messages and contact them within one spot? Is the applicant experience low barrier? Is it ADA compliant? Are they able to access it mobilely on a phone, or tablet, iPad, things like that? And then is the admin experience low friction? So this is just for you. Is it simple for you? Is it easy for you? And will it save you time in the long run? And then the last question is, what does the product roadmap look like and how frequently are features released? So this is if you're using any sort of platform, how up to date is it? How many times is it being kind of reworked and revamped and new features and things launched that can better help support your program? And just about the partnership with the platform or whatever tool you're using, we just have a couple questions, and it's how long does implementation take? I know we already had that question in the chat, but that can be super important depending on when you're wanting to launch your program and how quickly. What does ongoing support look like? Are you submitting tickets, emails? Are you talking to an AI chatbot, or do you have a live kind of representative to work with you? What's the history and mission behind the company? Kind of where did they get their start? Does their mission align with your organization's mission? What separates them from the competitors? Obviously, there are lots of tools out there. So, what kind of sets them aside? The next one is what is the most common support requests they may receive? What are very common issues that they have within their own platform? Who else in our space is using this platform? This can be really important depending on your industry. That can be a useful question. And then the last one is why should we choose you? So these are all just some kind of ideas if you're looking into a new platform as you're kind of exploring those, some things to ask yourself and ask the platform. All right, and it looks like we have a question, which I'm kind of rolling into the slide right now. So this is our checklist that we are going to provide at the end of this webinar in the next couple days. Be on the lookout for a follow-up from us. You'll get a recording um, and then any information you might need from there. And then we will also send you this checklist that kind of mentions a lot of the things that we've touched on or that I touched on in the questions. And it's just for you to kind of be able to go through as you're searching for a platform or looking at your current tools and just kind of checking off, do we have this? Do we not? Do we need this? Just as kind of a nice download. Yeah. And now, following up with that, we are going to open up the floor for questions. So these can be program specific, these can be kind of general, kind of whatever questions you guys have, feel free to kind of start dropping them in the chat.
Yeah, it looks like we got another question asking if our platform accommodates video submissions, and absolutely. There's a couple programs that I can think of off the top of my head where the sole submission is video uploads. And so you 100% can run a video submission type application process. What's the import process like to migrate past application frameworks to this platform? So typically what that looks like is we put all of your submissions into a spreadsheet, and then the top first kind of column is going to be those questions that you're asking. So first name, last name, email, what scholarship would you like to apply for? Any of your long form questions. You pretty much are just going to put that entire form into a spreadsheet. We will build that exact form into Reviewer, and then you'll import the submissions that way. And so then there's a couple different ways that you can kind of go about having those submissions live in Reviewer, but that is what our import process looks like.
It's like we have another question about what else we have seen clients use the platform for. So like we said, scholarships, awards, grants is another big one that we see ran within Reviewer. We also run different competitions like pitch competitions, things like that. And then, yeah, call for speakers, call for abstracts, all sorts of different things like that that we see within the platform.
Yeah, it's
We
pretty
also see,
broad. Pretty much, sorry,
yeah,
Callie. Pretty much any kind of process you're running that involves an application, we've seen some form of it. So a pretty broad way to use us in the application form process. Yes, so how easy is it to reassign reviewers from one set of applications to another set? It is honestly a pretty easy process. So you can actually have your reviewers be in more than one group and assign them to more than one scorecard. So say, for example, if I want Callie to judge my scholarship 1, scholarship 2, and scholarship 3, but not my scholarship 4, I will assign her to scholarship 1, 2, and 3 groups. She will live in them, and then I will assign her using that kind of either assign all, manual assign, or automatic assign. So as long as they're in that group, they can be assigned to as many submissions as possible. And then they also have that visibility on that evaluator portal of what kind of submission, what group they're in, what evaluation scorecard they're using, etc. So if it is kind of like that, where you want them to be assigned to more than one group of submissions, super easy. A lot of times we also see multiple rounds of evaluations, and that's a really easy process too, because again, we'll just add her or add your reviewer into that group, whether that's round 1, 2, etc. Make those assignments, and then you're good to go. So definitely a pretty quick and easy process.
All right. Well, if we don't have any questions, I'll drop that link in the chat again. If you're interested in a more in-depth demo, or if you have any questions kind of following this webinar, you can book a meeting right there with somebody from our team, and they'll be able to answer any questions or kind of walk you through anything else that you want to see. But with that being said, thank you all for attending our webinar today and be on the lookout for our follow-up.